I'm gonna try to make this quick. It's probably not gonna work, but every video I make is like 40 minutes long, and that's difficult for somebody to sit through. But BC has always been a place where drugs have been legal. So about a week ago, BC officially announced, British Columbia, Canada, the province, officially announced that street drugs are now legal in BC. That's weird because I came here when I was 22 and I'm 30 years old now. And when I first came here, even before cannabis or marijuana was legal, it was legal in BC. Um, and so were all street drugs. How do I know? Well, when I hopped off the bus for the first time in British Columbia, the first thing I did was go up the East Hastings Strip, which is known as Skid Row, the Skid Row of Canada, which is where it's a whole street in Vancouver that um, drug users, drug addicts, people who are addicted to drugs all tent and live on this street all the way up. And they use drugs, they use needles, they smoke meth, they smoke crack, they smoke heroin, they inject heroin and every drug you could imagine out in the open in public for everybody to see. And the city allows it, and the province allows it, and the government allows it. And there are no consequences for that. And the police just walk by and they witness people smoking meth, smoking crack, smoking, doing heroin, doing needles, overdosing and dying. And they literally just walk past and they don't do anything. Because why? Because wouldn't that assume that drugs were legal in British Columbia, and that was almost 10 years ago, and that was going on long before I came to BC, and I'm 30 years old now. I've lived here for 7, 8, almost 8 years now. And I'm from Hamilton, Ontario originally. And in Ontario, there's more crime, there's more gangs, it's more gun violence, it's more dangerous, and there's more drug dealers there and more gangsters. But for some reason, British Columbia has the biggest drug pandemic in the country. Well, that's not by coincidence. That's not an accident. Okay. And as for the cannabis, the marijuana, when it was illegal, there were dispensaries legally operating. Okay. How could you run a business, rent space, get a business license and a permit to operate in British Columbia, Canada, for a cannabis dispensary if weed was illegal? Which weed was illegal, but this was still happening. This was only okay. BC was the only place that was like that. Okay, there was no dispensaries in Ontario, in Toronto, in Hamilton, in Kitchener, in Peterborough, in London, in Ottawa, in anywhere. Okay, even in Quebec, there was no dispensaries that like you could just walk in and get buy weed from a legal business, like an operating, like walking into a restaurant and buying a gram of weed. You would go to jail for a gram of weed and get a breach if you're on probation and do 30 days for a gram of weed in Ontario. You know what I'm saying? And you can't just do drugs out in the open and do needles and smoke meth and smoke crack, because the cops will see you and they'll grab you and then they'll confiscate your paraphernalia and charge you with paraphernalia and possession of illegal narcotics. You'll go to jail, you'll dry out, you'll become sober, you'll withdraw, you'll get sick, you'll dry out, you'll be a brand new person again, and now you have a moment of clarity to think if you want to go back to that drug or not. It's your choice now, because you're not chemically induced or chemically dependent on that chemical, on that drug, that external chemical that has replaced the internal chemical that you already have in your body that fights pain. So you've replaced your natural ability to fight pain, or to fight pain, with an external chemical that replaces the natural chemical in your body. So your body loses its natural ability to fight pain when you inject yourself with pain drugs externally. It takes your natural ability. So now your body depends chemically for its own survival on that chemical, on that drug that you've replaced in your body from the natural source you already had. Which means it's you no longer are making decisions. You don't have the power to make decisions anymore. Your body is chemically driven. If you try to stop breathing right now and die, it wouldn't work, because you're gonna hold your breath for as long as you can. Your body's gonna kick in and go, and it's gonna take a breath, because it is dependent on oxygen to live, and your body and brain are dependent on chemicals in order to function and live and thrive. So your body is not going to allow your decision making to stop it from doing what it does to live. Okay. So that means it's not, when somebody's addicted to a drug, it's not a choice that they continue to do that drug. It's their body taking over in a survival instinct to go and make sure that it gets that chemical in its body that it's already supposed to have in the first place. It doesn't matter where it gets it. If it loses its natural ability to produce and have that chemical to fight pain, or whatever the chemical is naturally that your body produces, serotonin, dopamine, whatever it is, and it gets replaced with an external source, it's going to force you, your body, your brain, it's going to force itself to go and get that chemical, no matter where it is, how it gets in you. It has to, or else it denies its own existence. It's impossible. So here's the thing. If you always have access to these drugs, you will never escape addiction, because the only time that you cannot get your natural ability to regenerate these chemicals, to fight pain, or to just have these natural chemicals at all in your body, is to literally withdraw and separate and be cut off from the external source, the drug, the street drug, long enough for your body to start regenerating its own chemicals and balancing its own natural chemicals to put you back into balance with yourself, as your body already had the ability to do this in the first place before you chose, at that time, before you were addicted, to take this external chemical or drug and replace it with the natural chemical or drug in your body that produces itself. Okay, so here's the thing. The system knows this chemically, scientifically, and mathematically. So they've come up with a way to basically profit off of the drug trade, but display themselves as a helping hand to help drug addicts safely do drugs, to, I don't know, make it safer to do drugs, basically. They've come up with this front to legalize drugs so that they could profit off the drug trade and make it seem like they're doing something that's helping addiction and helping drug addicts and helping improve addiction in general, or make it safer. It doesn't matter what you do. Drugs will never be safe to do, okay? People will die from drugs. Now, you can extend their lifespan, and you can improve their experience in doing drugs, and you can provide them free drugs and test the drugs before they get it, so they don't get no fentanyl and die. But guess what? People are already going to die from drugs. There's nothing you can do to stop it. Here's the thing. If you keep Narcaning somebody that's addicted to drugs and they keep living and they can never, of course we don't want to let nobody die. If that was my brother, cousin, or dad, which my dad did needles in front of me, he was a drug addict too. Oxycontins, pain medication, opiates, opioids, every drug you can imagine. He smoked crack in front of me. I was around drugs all my life. I was in trap houses selling crack when I was 15 years old. Okay, I've seen it on both sides of the fence. I've been through everything. Okay, been in the street since I was 14 years old. I spent 15 years homeless across Canada, not just BC. So I have a broad, wide understanding of how addiction works. Okay, not to mention my own addictions in the past that I went through and overcame. Okay, but the only thing that ever stopped my dad from doing drugs is when he went to jail. I will never advocate for jail in my life. I've been to jail. It's a bad place. It's not going to make you a better person. And yes, you can get drugs inside a jail, but 9 out of 10 dudes don't have the resource or the money or the individual to come bring you the canteen money to put it in your account so you can get the drugs in jail. Also, the drugs come into jail hooped up somebody's asshole, okay? And most people, even if you're a drug addict, don't want to smoke crack that came out of somebody's ass crack, okay? But the average civilian doesn't know about stuff like this. So they think, oh, you can get drugs in jail. You can get more drugs in jail than you can on the streets. No, you can't, because you're in jail and you can't access money, and you need somebody externally to come to the jail and put money on your account. And if you're a drug addict and a criminal and you're in jail, do you think somebody's going to come and bring you canteen money? No. Chances are very slim. So you have an opportunity to dry out, become sober, get away from, your body will regenerate itself and have its own natural flow of chemicals, balance running through your body. So now you're no longer addicted to the drug and the external source, which means your body's not going to go get the drug. It's a choice now, and you need to be able to make a choice. And you can't make a choice if you're always on drugs, always addicted, and it's always given to you, and they give you free drugs, and they give you injection sites where they help you inject it. And if it's legalized and everybody's on drugs in the streets and all the homeless shelters like it is in BC, how are you ever going to get away from the influences of drugs long enough so you can get sober? It doesn't happen. If you're around these influences, you're never going to get away from them. If you're constantly around people that are on drugs or trying to overcome addiction or alcoholism, you will never overcome addiction or alcoholism. How do I know? I've been there. I had to isolate myself and separate myself from everybody that was using and doing that shit so I could become sober, and that's the only thing that worked. Sometimes when you're addicted and your body is chemically dependent on that external source now because it can't generate it itself naturally, nobody and nothing can stop you from getting drugs, not even you. You're going to get it. You're going to do whatever it takes. If you got to kill someone, rob somebody, you're going to get that drug because your body depends on it chemically for it to exist. And we are survivors naturally as human beings. We will do whatever it takes to survive. People have literally turned to cannibalism, to survive in a situation where a plane crashed out in the mountains, and everybody, there was no food. Everybody started dying of starvation, and people actually ate the other people to live, and they were saved because of that. So that's the human. That's the brain. That's its instinct to survive. That's what's going to happen. So if you legalize drugs, okay, and you make it so easily to access, and everybody around is on drugs, and you can't separate yourself from that, especially when you're homeless and you go to any shelter and everybody's on drugs, including the staff. You know what I'm saying? Which that's what it's like in BC. Then you're never going to overcome addiction, which means, and if you're a drug addict and you don't die, okay, listen, let's say I'm the drug dealer and I got 5 drug addicts that every single month when they get their disability or welfare checks, they come to me and they buy some meth off me. Those are my clients. That's my cash flow, and I expect it to be coming in every month. If 1 or 2 of those guys die, my cash flow is limited now. It's going down. The idea is to go up, and that's the goal. When you're a drug dealer, you're trying to generate as much income as you possibly can and continue to grow your business, which means increase your clientele. So I don't want 5 guys, I want 10 guys, and then 20 guys, and then 30 guys. But if they're all dying, that's not good for the drug dealer, is it? I'm losing profit, I'm losing money because they're all dying. So do you know how valuable it would be to a drug dealer if they could just go and Narcan their clients? My 5 guys will live 10, 20 years longer than they would have if I didn't introduce Narcan to the scenario. Okay, so Narcan is a drug dealer's best friend, okay, because it keeps their client buying drugs forever. Not forever, they're still going to die eventually, but you're extending your clientele, your ROI, your return of investment. You're going to make more money off that 1 client or that 5 clients than you would if you didn't have Narcan in the equation, okay? So this is really a front. It seems like they're using your heart against you, because of course we would want, if we had the chemical ability to stop somebody from overdosing and dying, would we not? Of course we would. The devil knows that. So do the drug dealers. They use it against you. They say, oh, this is perfect. Everybody in their heart that beats would, of course, they would want to save a drug. Perfect. Yes. Okay. So now they create this front. Harm reduction, Narcan, all these things. They extend the life of the client, of the drug addict, which means more revenue, more money that the drug dealers are going to make. And also, if you legalize it, the cops aren't looking for a drug dealer on the East Hastings Strip to shake him down, find his drugs, and put him in the penitentiary for 5 years for trafficking. Like in Ontario, that's what will happen to you. Of course, there's still drug dealers, but guess what? I couldn't think of a better opportunity as a drug dealer than British Columbia, because first of all, I could come out here, blend right in on the strip, be selling drugs, selling meth, selling crack, making a killing, and I don't have to worry at any point in time about a cop pulling up on me saying, yo, what are you doing here? You look like you got money. We want to see what you got on your person. And shake me down and charge me for drug trafficking and possession of narcotics with intent to sell and distribute. That doesn't happen. So that means drug dealers reign free in British Columbia and don't get caught. I was homeless for 6-7 years out here, and I could have had crack and meth and heroin on me the whole time. I never got pulled over or shaken down by the cops once just for standing on the corner, hanging out. You know what I'm saying? In Ontario, they'll shake you down. They'll look at you. They'll be like, that guy's a drug dealer. They'll shake your ass down. They'll find your shit. You're going to the pen. See ya. You're getting rid of drug dealers like that. You're getting rid of, you know what I'm saying, enabling addiction and drug addicts in general. And we don't have a drug pandemic the way you do in BC. We don't have a whole strip of drug addicts outside smoking meth in front of kids and blowing the smoke around and, you know, and doing needles out in the open and overdosing everywhere. We don't have that. And that's why. That's the only time I'll advocate for jail, because the only thing that could ever stop me when I was addicted to drugs was jail. And I know nobody's going to come and bring me canteen money. I've already been in there, and I was hoping to God somebody would come and bring me some money so I could get some weed in there. You know what I'm saying? That was hooped up somebody's ass. Now I got to smoke weed that came from somebody's asshole, right? Which is hard to do already knowing that, right? You might as well just quit. You know what I'm saying? And that's what happened. You know what I mean? I dried out, sobered up. Now I had a moment of clarity, and I could make a conscious decision instead of a chemically dictated decision, a chemically motivated decision. Because of course you're always going to make the decision to go back to the drug because your body requires it. It's dependent on it chemically. And it does what it has to do to survive chemically and naturally and live and breathe and function. And chemicals are a part of that. Your body and your brain are reliant on chemicals. When you get hurt, your brain releases a chemical. When you feel good, your brain releases dopamine and, you know, and serotonin and stuff like that. Your body is dependent on chemicals to survive. So if you get a drug from outside and put it in your body, it literally depletes and stops your natural ability to produce that chemical, which puts you in a survival state to get that chemical no matter what, by any means, externally, or else you're going to die. You would die if you didn't have the ability to produce the chemical that relieves pain. You would die. You would just lay there in so much pain that it would kill you. And that's what happens when people run out of their drugs. They become so dope sick and withdrawal, and they become so sick and in so much pain, extreme pain, like third degree burns all over your body pain. That's what it feels like. You know what I'm saying? And of course you're going to go and get that drug. You're never going to let yourself go to that point. You can't. Your brain and your body will never allow you to get to that point, because it would mean death. It would mean certain death. Your body's not going to allow you to die. Its purpose is to live and thrive. Okay? So here's the problem in BC. But you know what? All the civilians out here in this province, which is the richest place in Canada, okay? This is not the hood. As much as it tries to be the hood and tries to be gangster, it's really not. Okay? Go to Toronto. Go to the projects out there. You won't even make it. You won't get there, because there's 100, 200 man gangs of refugees from countries of war, like Somalian gangs that came from a country of war that will blow your face off. A 13-year-old kid will shoot you in the head. All that tattoos and muscles and skinhead business out here in BC does not exist in that place, and you will die. It doesn't matter how much muscles you got, how tough you think you are. You're gonna get killed. You're gonna get shot in your head. It's a war out there. It's a war zone, okay? So all these drug dealers from Toronto and Hamilton, all these places, they're coming out here now to do business because it's free reign. It's a fresh slate. It's a place that you can literally sell drugs and get away with it and make the most profit you could ever imagine. because of the legalization and the harm reduction in the system that has designed it to be available. Why would this happen? Why would the government do this? Why would the system allow something like this? Money. So the politicians, the government guys, and the guys that, the system itself, the law, the authorities themselves are working with the organized gangs and criminals, and they have made an agreement and said, we'll create a front to society and to the community to make them think we're trying to help addiction, and we're making it look good, and look at our statistics, we're saving drug addicts, and we're doing good stuff, right? And it's improving, which it's not. Okay, I've been here for 7 years. They've been saying this the whole time, and it definitely hasn't been improving out here. And watch what happens in the next 10 years now. It's going to be a shit show. Okay, but that way the drugs can flow freely through British Columbia. The big gangsters can drop their bricks off, make their money, as long as they give the politicians, the government, and the authorities and the law a percentage. So the people that run this province, the government, is profiting from the drug trade. They have made an agreement with the gangsters. I'm not going to specifically name which entity. Figure it out yourself. Who runs the drug trade? All over the world, right? Okay, so, they basically had no choice but to comply anyways, or they're going to drop a bomb off at your doorstep or at the police station regardless. It's the mob. What are you going to do? Nothing. You know what I'm saying? So instead of them getting blown up and going to war with the mob, they said, you know what? We don't want that problem. Let's think of a way that we can strategically do this to make it look to the community that we're doing something good for drug addicts and addiction and drugs in general, and create this front based off your heart, based off of things that are true. There's always truth mixed with a lie. Okay, it's true that if we could stop somebody from overdosing and dying, we would. If that takes a chemical to inject them in, then we're going to do that, right? Naturally, of course, instinctively. That's somebody's brother, my dad was on drugs, my cousin was on drugs, my first love died from drugs. Of course, if I could go back and Narcan them, I would. But it might extend their lifespan, but it's not going to change them as a person. And it's not to say that they're not going to die in the future because they can't get away from the drugs. If it was in Ontario and I could Narcan them and they weren't around such a drug pandemic, then they would have half of a chance at escaping the addiction. But in British Columbia, there's absolutely no chance that a drug addict that gets Narcan isn't going to get up and go walk back to the East Hastings Strip, see their homie smoking a piece of crack, and say, yo, you want a hoot? And then they're going to smoke, and it's going to continue on and on and on, okay? Harm reduction is a lie, okay? They got these fake drug addict dudes from claiming they're from the streets and they overcame addiction because of harm reduction, saved their life and shit. These guys are mascots. They're getting paid to do that. There's a guy that's actually named Guy, okay, in Vancouver that literally did a TED Talk, and he represents this method and strategy, and he's getting paid to do that. And also, he looks probably like one of the friggin' the mob dudes that are profiting from this pyramid scheme. So they get a guy like that to say he was a drug addict, he survived and because of harm reduction, goes and does a bunch of talks to schools and everywhere else and TED Talks to make people believe, yeah, this is the right thing to do, because these people aren't from the streets. They never seen addiction. They weren't homeless for 15 years. They never seen their dad inject heroin and go to jail and then it clean him out. They never saw that. So they think, well, this guy, he used to be a drug addict and it saved his harm reduction, saved his life. So we have to believe in that and we have to believe in him. And that means we're doing the right thing. The drug dealers and the cartels and the mobs are laughing right now, going, wow, they bought that shit. Wow, they bought it. Whoa, we're making a killing right now. Here's your percentage, Mr. Government. No problem. Keep that going, bro. Keep that going. Because the guys at the top are making all the money. They're profiting off of this. And it ties into homelessness too, and why homelessness never evolves in British Columbia, and why there's such a pandemic in homelessness too. It ties to that, and I'm going to drop a video about that too, and it's going to be at the end of this. You're going to see it at the end of this video at some point when I drop that video, but I'm not going to do that right away. So just watch out for that. You're going to see these videos. I'm telling you, bro, I was sold drugs. I've been in the street since I was 14 years old. I know who all the players are. I know the government's crooked and corrupt. I know that the homeless shelters are crooked and corrupt, and all these organizations and agencies are creating solutions to problems around addiction and homelessness so that they can ask the federal government for another $100 million grant of funding every single year. The Salvation Army makes $28,500 per month, $342,000 a year, roughly, in one city, one Salvation Army, off of people's welfare checks, off of the homeless. The homeless guy has to pay $600 a month to live in a non-profit Christian organization called the Salvation Army and live in a dorm with 30 other men in bunk beds, and all of them are on drugs, but they claim to be a rehabilitation rehab center, which is false. That's another front. Okay? I know because I lived there. I was homeless. For years I went there. I figured the whole play out. I saw all the players. I know what's happening. It took me 10 years to figure this entire scheme out, and it blew my mind and made me sick to my stomach. And I'm out here trying to advocate for homelessness and try to actually contribute to help. And then I figured out how all these orgs get their money. And then I saw the whole play with the addiction, with the homelessness, and it all tied in. And it just blew my mind. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars per year. This is a big business. And who's getting all the money? Because it's not the homeless guy. I couldn't get a pair of socks from the Salvation Army when I was homeless there. I went downstairs and said, hey, you guys got any socks? Nah, man, sorry, we don't have any right now. Okay, do you got a bagel, a piece of bread, something to eat right now? Sorry, man, you're going to have to wait for dinner. We don't have nothing right now. Okay, and the dinners are literally donated. It's donated expired food from grocery stores and other organizations that throw this food out at the end of the day or at the end of the week because it's no longer able to be sold legally based off of food and safety, food and health safety organization, whatever you call them. They say after a certain period that you can't sell these products or items anymore legally, even though that the food is not going to kill you, but it's at the point of where it's turning bad. It's after the best before date. Okay, which means it's becoming expired just before expiration. You're eating that food, it's making you sick. It's giving you cancer. It's making you unwell at the same time when you're homeless. It's deteriorating you. Okay, and this is what the system literally does. So it's not costing $100 million or $28,500 a month to run this homeless shelter with expired donated food that didn't cost any money, with people that are volunteering their time to work there, not to work there, but volunteering. Okay, very minimal amount of staff with a very low wage. The majority, 90% of the money that's being put towards homelessness and addiction is literally not going to the person that needs it the most. It's not. There was no resource. All the shelters were full in Victoria, BC when I was homeless one night, many nights actually, and I went to each one, the Salvation Army, Rock Bay, and our place, and I asked them each for a blanket because they were all closed. They were all full. And I said, okay, can you guys at least give me a blanket? Sorry, man, we can't do that. How is it that you guys are ciphering through millions of dollars and the Salvation Army is making $28,500 off of the homeless guy, his welfare check or his disability check, which it goes back into the BC housing, and BC housing is owned by the government. So your tax dollars are being put right back into the pocket of the government. Half of the check through the homeless shelters and the homelessness, and then through the drugs, the other half, and they're profiting from that too. Big pharma as well. Okay? Yeah. Piece it together. Piece it together. You would have to spend 10, 15 years in the streets to identify these patterns and actually know what's going on, or else it would look to you as the way that it's meant to by the system. The system built this display. It's a front. It's a hologram. It's an illusion. It's a fucking fraud. It's a front. I'm telling you. I figured I did it. I was there. I got employed to these organizations. I saw how they get their money. I could go work at the Salvation Army right now, but they know that I'm over here exposing them on YouTube, so that wouldn't work. But I'm qualified to apply for a job at the Salvation Army or any organization or agency that claims to be about poverty and homelessness. I am overqualified with my lived experience. I'm sober, I'm housed, and I've had stability for over 2 years, up to 2 years. Okay? I'm more qualified than the guys that are working there right now. I actually have the certifications, a peer support certification, work experience that would also make me qualified to work at these places. But I don't want to. You know why? Because I know that they're there as a front to get money. And they're profiting off of homelessness and addiction. And they're making it look like they're helping the homeless guy and they're helping the drug addict. But the entire thing is a front. Nobody's ever exposed something like this out here, okay? And when you figure these things out, it would be in your best interest not to, because you'll get blackballed from every single place. You'll never get a job again out here. You'll actually put your life at risk because you're talking about serious business in between serious entities. Not to mention the legal political authority world, but we're talking about the underground, organized gang world too. So I'm stepping on toes by saying shit like this, which could get me chucked off into the Pacific Ocean with a center block attached to my neck, okay? Because it's big business and big money, and you don't want to be exposing people like that because they'll kill you. They kill cops. They blow police stations up. They don't care. Nobody can stop them. If you're a child of God, that's different. God is in control, okay? This is Satan's world for right now for a limited period of time, but God controls the outcome. That's as far as I'm going to go, all right? I didn't say no specific names, okay? And if you're going to call me a snitch for making this video, well, Tupac must be a snitch too then, and I'm sure you admired Tupac, right? A revolutionary. His mother was, a part of the Black Panther Party. Okay, so does that mean the Black Panther Party is a bunch of snitches too? Probably not. What it is exposing the system for enslaving the human race. Okay, that's different. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying no names, getting people put in jail and snitching, gangsters. You know what I'm saying? There was no specific details. Okay, but this is common knowledge. This is historical knowledge. Revolutionaries before me, you know what I'm saying, have already exposed this. Tupac, you know what I'm saying, Martin Luther King, you know what I'm saying, JFK. And what happened to them? What happened to them? They got assassinated, okay? So that's how real this shit is. I never thought in a million years that I would experience something like this. But when you step on me and you try to kill me, you try to starve me, you try to call me a liar, you know what I'm saying? When I'm a homeless, sober guy trying to elevate myself out of homelessness, and the system is literally built in a way to keep me there and keep it like that so they can continue year after year to profit from this business, multi-million-dollar business, if not more. And you're mass genocide. This is mass genocide. And if you try to kill me, there's no more rules. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to fight for my life. I'm willing to kill. I'm willing to die. I'm willing to do it all. Whatever you want to do, I'm down for that. You know what I mean? I know how to live that life already. You know what I'm saying? I came from the darkness. I came from the hood. And I lived that life already and mastered it. Everybody else is dead except for me. So go ahead. Take your best fucking shot. You know what I mean? But, it's bad. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, when you step on my neck, I don't have any other choice but to respond. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. But this is what's happening. Okay. Drugs have always been legal in British Columbia. So I don't know why they're all of a sudden they're saying we just legalized drugs in British Columbia, and everyone's saying hooray, yay. It's been like that for the last 10 plus years. What are you talking about? So that's even more proof that this shit is a pyramid scheme. Like, what do you even talk? Why are you acting like you just legalized drugs when it's been legal the entire? Nobody's ever went to jail in BC for possession of narcotics. You know what I'm saying? Or else the entire East Hastings strip wouldn't exist. nobody would be able to live there and do drugs. It would be impossible because the cops would just sweep in every single day and put more and more people in jail. And we're talking about a hard time when you're possessing narcotics like that. Big stuff, buddy. Like, and there would be no drug dealers either because they would all be getting smashed. They'd be getting smashed and doing 5, 10+ years. Like, it wouldn't even exist. The East Hastings Strip and Skid Row wouldn't even exist if it was illegal. If drugs were illegal, it wouldn't exist. There would be no way to do something. That's impossible. You know what I'm saying? It's not possible. If murdering people was illegal, do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it wouldn't exist. It wouldn't exist if it was illegal. Anyways, that's all I gotta say. I'm out.